next. Would you like to take her question?
Yes. Hi.
You can unmute, Anyota, and tell us if I'm saying your name right.
Thank you so much for unmuting me, because I'm on the internet and I'm trying to get back to our Zoom here, because I had to look at this wheel. I'm very intrigued by this wheel. This wheel has a very expansive vocabulary for some very basic emotions. I had no idea that our emotional vocabulary could be so expansive, but there are only 7 base feelings in the middle of the circle. Can you talk some more about that, please?
Say more for me with regards to your question.
So, I mean, here we are, we're looking at just 7 emotions, basic emotions: surprise, bad, fearful, angry, sad, happy, disgusted. How did just those 7 emotions make it in the middle of this circle? But there's so many other ways to describe, like, how were these links made to these 7 emotions only?
You know, I wish I had the answer for you with that. I don't know. I mean, I think it's great. It's just listen, I am as surprised as you are. Yeah, this will it's used pretty widely, but also understand there are other feelings wheel models out there, and there's some that have even more emotions than this. I really like this one just because of one, it's very colorful, and the colors kind of coincide with the different textures. There are some emotional wheels that I'm not really fond of because they have certain emotions that are not really a part of my vernacular in terms of how I deal with my clients. But yeah, I'm not quite sure how they were able to expand on these very basic emotions. I think that it probably took a certain gift, a gift that I don't have. But I am very grateful to whoever developed that gift, because it's really, really helpful to a lot of people. And not only to a lot of people, it's very helpful to me as well. Okay. Some of us grew up in households and in cultures where we didn't have permission to identify our emotions. And as a result of that, you know, we may not have developed the words that we need to be able to give voice to our emotions. And so what I really like about this wheel is that this wheel helps us to give voice to emotions. So yes, thank you for that question. I wish I had a better answer for you, but yeah, I don't know. Miriam, I see your hand up. Miriam, are you there?
Yes, I'm here now. Thank you for unmuting me. My question is, so you see how London was put in that situation, right? Where her boss told her she asked too many questions, and we were able to identify that emotion and the root emotion. And she knows now that her boss he might tell her that the next time she might be in a meeting. But what if we are always put into that same situation, or our clients are put into that same scenario over and over again? And if it's a little bit more traumatic in a way?
Very good question. Very good question. So that is one of the reasons that is the importance of the mapping, because if 9 times so with London already knew that when they hear, and it could be any critique that London heard, it just so happens that this is what we were talking about that day. But any critique, London is going to automatically feel apologetic and remorseful. And this is one of the reasons why it was really important for us to delve deeper into what was really causing them to feel apologetic and remorseful, and is that what they were really feeling? To some degree, yes, but it was reactionary. So we have to figure out what is underneath that apologetic and that remorsefulness that they're feeling so that we can really get to the root of it. Because you're right, you know, they may go into another situation. Actually, they go into many situations, and here, you know, you're asking too many questions, or, you know, you are speaking too loudly, or you are running late, and it's going to cause them to feel apologetic. But what we have to do is go in and say, okay, let's get to the root of what's happening here, because you can't stop going into situations where you might be critiqued about something. That's just kind of the world we live in, right? We're going to always be critiqued. Sometimes the critique is not necessarily about us. And that's why it's important for London to get a better understanding and get more comfortable with their self-concept. Because once you understand that going into a situation where you're being critiqued, that it's not always about you. It could have been Howard that went into the situation, and the same person might have critiqued Howard. So we have to get to the root of what's going on, because sometimes things are just really not about you. So what we'll do is we will deal with the feelings of feeling that people are telling me I'm too much and that I don't have a right to be myself. And I'm scared that I'm going to get abandoned and rejected. That's where the trauma lies. And that's what we have to deal with. Okay. Does that help, Miriam?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Sure. Excuse me. Let's see. I wonder if these core emotions are linked to our survival and that others expand on those core needs. Huh, good question. Very good question, Danny. I would probably, if I had to speculate, I would probably say yes. I also think that as I look at the emotions in the center of the wheel, you see sad, mad, scared. Those emotions are considered what a lot of people consider to be very negative emotions. But then joyful, powerful, peaceful, those can be considered as more positive emotions. Okay. And oftentimes, I think what happens is when we experience what we consider to be negative emotions, we want to get rid of those emotions. But we are emotional beings. So just as we have the capacity to feel joyful, peaceful, and powerful, we also have the capacity to feel sad, mad, and scared, right? And so I think that for a lot of people, it's really good for them to be able to see these and have something that's tangible. Case in point, for a lot of men who come into my office, you know, they come in and their wives might say, well, he's just mad all the time. And when you get to talking to the man, it's like, well, wait a minute. Are you depressed? Well, no, I'm not depressed. What you mean, am I depressed? Well, okay, well, let's think about it. Your wife says you're irritable. Yeah, but that don't mean I'm depressed. Okay. Well, she's saying that your sleep is disturbed. She's saying that you're having difficulty focusing. She's saying that you don't enjoy interacting with her anymore. Yeah, but what you trying to say? Now, he's reacting in a way that's angry, or what seems angry. But all of those different symptoms are related to a depressive condition. And so having something like this to be able to give helps them to have a visual and helps them to be able to give voice to what they're feeling. Oh, you mean to tell me that if I am responding in an angry way, it could also mean that I'm feeling sad or that I'm depressed? Yeah, it can. So I don't know if that helps you, Danny, but that's all I got for you. Let's see. Denise, how are we doing with time?
You have about 24 minutes still in this session. We go till 1:30. And it looks like you've answered all the questions so far that are in the chat box there.
Okay. So we're going to move along and just kind of start to wrap this up. And if any other questions come, just let me know, and we will, whether it's questions, comments, we will certainly take some time to address those. So Maya Angelou once said, as soon as healing takes place, go out and heal someone else. And I just think that this is this quote, this is such a dope quote, And I think it really resonates with me, and it goes very well with what we're talking about. Having an awareness and understanding of our root emotions, or the emotions that are driving our reactions, is vital and provides clarity that is useful in proactively developing healthy responses. Awareness of our emotions is useful for articulating our emotional needs, advocating for ourselves, and learning to nurture ourselves and our emotions. When we nurture ourselves, we actively nourish our emotions, which restores mental and emotional energy. This process enhances self-worth and fosters emotional healing, self-affirmation, and affirmation of others. So as you learn to deliberately become more mindful of how your emotions manifest, I encourage you to consider how you will nurture yourself. I encourage you to consider how you will affirm yourself. What will you do to demonstrate that you accept the validity of who you are authentically, the validity of who you say you are authentically? Lastly, I encourage you to consider how you will affirm others. What will you do to demonstrate that you accept the validity of who they say they are? Self-affirmation nurtures and promotes healing for us and those we extend it to. Some might actually say that it is the ultimate gift of reciprocity. And so if we have any other questions or concerns, we have a little more time. What you see here is the Emotional Lifeline and Mapping Journal, which was developed by myself. And so the page that we mapped London's emotions, their lifeline, actually came from this journal. The journal is a little bit different because in the journal, you also get a list of emotions. For those of you who may have difficulty identifying emotions, there is a listing of emotions there to help you. There is also ample room for you to write your narrative. And so we have any other recommended reading resources for aspiring somatic therapists? Let's see, for Danny, for those of you who are working with people of color, if you are familiar with BEAM, B-E-A-M, which stands for the Black Emotional and Mental Health Collective, and their website is BEAM, B-E-A-M, .community, not .com, not .org, but beam.community. They have a lot of resources, primarily most of their programming is for people of color. However, their resources can be used with any population. And so with that particular organization, they do a lot of work with regards to somatics. Let's see. Let's see. Nayoka, I think that's how you say your name. Is that the action potential of a neuron in the diagram, or the action potential of the heartbeat? Nayoka, I'm sorry, I'm not quite understanding your question. Can you unmute yourself and ask your question?
I see. Okay, so I'm a science person. And we look at action potentials in neurons and in the heart, right? So what you have outlined here resembles that, but I see that it is your emotional lifeline that you have here in your journal publication. So now I understand, but the connection is very scientific in terms of action potential. So that's my science brain going on right there. So forgive me, now I understand.
Well, that was done intentionally. So thank you thank you for observing that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so any other questions or any other concerns? Okay. Well, Denise, looks like I did it within the time frame I was given.
One more question just popped up. Kate is asking, for those of us who spent a long time taking care of the needs of others as a survival strategy, how do we practice affirming others while we heal?
Good question. Was it Kate?
Yep, Kate.
Okay, very good question. So you might not like the answer. Kate, are you on? Can we unmute her?
Okay, she says she can't unmute right now.
Okay,
but she's here. She's listening.
Okay. All right. So yes. So let's talk about what it means to affirm. And when I first started talking about this, I actually started talking about affirming others. I used to do safe space training when I was at Georgia Southern, and trying to educate people about LGBT individuals. And one of the questions that I would always get is, well, what if I don't agree with what the person is doing, or what if I just don't have a problem with how they live their lives? And when we talk about affirming others, what we're talking about is basically accepting the validity of who they say they are. Okay. And so if you are a caretaker, and first, let me just say that I know, matter of fact, I know firsthand that caretaking can be very, very draining. And a lot of times we don't give enough attention to the caretaker. At one point, my mom had a surgery, and I was taking care of her. And we would get all these phone calls, people calling and asking about my mom, my phone ringing all the time about, how's your mom doing? Rarely did anybody ask about how I was doing. And so that brought up it really brought up a lot of resentment for me, because I felt like, I'm doing all of this, and I'm an only kid, by the way. I felt like I'm doing all of this. I'm doing the best I can. Everybody is interested in how my mom is doing. And I get that. I understand it. But nobody seems to be interested in how I'm doing. And so, the fact that my mom needed care was really not her fault. And, I was the one who made the decision that I am going to step in and care for my mom. So I had to get really honest about that. I had to get honest over the fact that, you know, Dion, this is a decision that you made. And in making the decision to do so, it meant that I would be responsible for trying to develop a plan that would take care of her, but also making sure that I'm taking care of myself. That's how you affirm that person. You have to affirm yourself first. If you're doing everything you possibly can to care for that person and to meet their needs and to be there for them, and you're not doing anything to be there for yourself, to affirm yourself, basically what's happening is that you are being depleted and you are being deprived. And what you have to do is take some time to regroup so that you can figure out, how do I start to pour back into myself? How do I affirm myself? Yes, I'm taking care of this person. And we don't know if you're taking care of the person because you really want to, or if you're taking care of the person because of obligation. You know, when we do things out of obligation, it can breed a lot of resentment. But even if we're doing it because we want to, we still have to be able to figure out a way, how do I affirm myself? How am I going to nurture myself so that I have enough energy, mental energy, physical energy, spiritual energy to give to this person? Kate, does that help?
We have a couple more questions here too. Kate says yes.
Awesome.
And there's a question from Lola. Lola, if you want to unmute, we can unmute you. If you want to check in. Here's
Hi, Lola.
Hi.
Lola.
Hi, Dr. Bates.
Where are you from?
From London in the UK.
Okay, awesome. Awesome. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, no problem. So I've got a question. I put it in the chat, so I'm just going to read it. How do you work with clients on their underlying meanings or wounds? For example, I will be abandoned if I'm too much, just like the example that you gave.
Sure. So the first thing that we have to do is acknowledge it. Okay. We have to acknowledge it. We don't judge it. And for a while, I just have them to sit with it, because 9 times out of 10, when it comes to feelings like this, feeling abandoned, you know, a lot of people struggle with abandonment and rejection. And a part of it is, a part of, at least from what I've seen, is trying to pretend it doesn't exist or trying to get rid of it. Usually what I'll do is, let's just face it, let's just sit in it. And I sit in it with them, because a part of the therapy is to help them to understand that there is someone who is able to sit in this feeling with you and be okay with it. Yes, the feeling of abandonment is uncomfortable, but you don't have to sit in this by yourself. So part of it is sitting with them, helping them to feel a little bit more comfortable with the actual feeling. Because what we want to do, we want to get them unstuck from that feeling, okay? And so the only way we can do that is to meet it head on. And then we start talking about experiences they've had with being abandoned, and we start talking about, you know, what did it mean? What did this particular action mean to you? And we start looking at, is it possible that this particular action may have meant something else? And so it can be a long process, but a part of it, the start of the process, is let's just sit with this. Let's just sit with it without trying to change it, without trying to push it away. Let's just let it exist. Is that helpful?
Yeah, very. Thank you.
Right.
Sometimes it's really about helping clients to understand that when they feel those really, really difficult emotions, that despite how difficult the emotion is, they're still going to be okay. All right. Well, I think we are 9 minutes in. If there are no more questions or any more concerns, that's all I have. So I will turn this back over to Denise.
And I want to thank you so very, very much from
I want to
everyone
thank all
here.
of you. I appreciate all of you being here. You could have been anywhere else, but you chose to be here with me. For those of you who are in other areas where it's really early in the morning, I really, really appreciate you. I give thanks for the Embodied Lab, and I'm thankful that I had the opportunity to come back and talk with you all, and that you all wanted me back. So that's awesome. If you have questions or concerns, I think Denise put my information there in the chat. My website is down there at the bottom of the screen. So if there are questions or concerns, you're certainly welcome to reach out to me anytime. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you again. And thank you to everyone from the Embody Lab for being here today. And if you have any questions, you can always reach us at info@the-embody lab. Thank you again, Dr. Bates. Thank you again for everyone being here today. Have a beautiful afternoon. We'll see you soon.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye now.